Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's recite a couple of mantras before we start this today's class. Om Bhur Bhavaswa Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So that is from the Vedas, and then we are going to do the mantra where we are saying our thanks to Lord Krishna also, who has given us this beautiful Bhagavad Gita. Sarvopnishado gavo dogda gopal nandana partho vatsa sudhir bhogta dugdam gita amritam mahat. See, just like a milk, I mean, these days, sure, there are a lot of additives in the milk. Some people cannot digest it. But in the olden times, all pure milk, organic milk, it was like a nectar to the baby also, to the elderly people also. Okay? So that's why in this month, it's said, Dugdam Gita Amritam Mahat. So this Gita is like a nectar, just like milk is. For everybody. It's not only for the old people, it's for the little ones also. It's like a nectar. That means we really can get all the knowledge, all the wisdom from this great Upanishad. Okay. So in this class, we are just looking at each chapter every week in the summary form and just to see what can we learn from it. And hopefully the people who are coming for the first time, after listening to this or going through it, they would like to go into the details of Bhagavad Gita. Because to me, each and every, not just the chapter, not just the verse, each word is extremely important. Okay, but first just let's go through in summary. So second chapter. First chapter we did last week. And if you did not get a chance to attend that, you can always go on our website and listen to that lecture also. Okay. And the week before that, we did the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. So this is our third class in this series. So this second chapter is called Shankhya Yog. There's a Shankhya philosophy also. There are 6 philosophies from India. There's a Yoga philosophy, Shankhya philosophy. But this Shankhya Yoga, the title of this chapter really means the knowledge. We saw at the end of the last chapter, Arjuna was so disheartened, so disturbed, almost in a depressive state. And he sat down and he didn't want to fight the war. Even though he was the greatest of the warrior of his time, but he got so confused. He didn't know what to do. He sat down and he said, I'm not going to fight. That means I'm not going to do my duty. It's almost like a little child says, something happens in school and comes home, I'm not going back to school. What do the parents do? They talk to the child, put some knowledge, some wisdom into the child's mind. And this is what Lord Krishna did in this chapter. So Shankhya really means wisdom. So that utter inability to cope with the situation made him go to that Vishad, the depression. So long chapter, 72 verses. Let me give you the overview of this chapter. Because this chapter it contains the whole philosophical contents of the Bhagavad Gita. So that's why it's good to know what we're going to find in this chapter and then later on in the rest of the chapters in detail. So roughly, if you look at the first 10 verses, they explain the circumstances under which Arjuna totally surrenders to Lord Krishna. Because unless we surrender to some higher power, We can stay in that kind of a state. Not even stay in that kind of a depressed state, we can even go down. So we see that in the first 10 verses. He openly admits, I don't know what to do, please tell me what to do. And that's very important. Very important to surrender or go to the proper place. Sure, if you can go within yourself, because a lot of people say there's a guru inside us too, which is our Atma. But we are not familiar with that. There's a very thick veiling between the Atma and our mind. It's very hard to reach there. So it's easy to reach outside to some person. Talk to that person, surrender, and get the knowledge. And that's what Arjuna is doing over here. From verses 11 to 46. There is a logic of thought we see. Lord Krishna is taking Arjuna logically from step by step. What this Atma is, it doesn't die. It was never born. But then that's a very high level of philosophy. Then he brings him down. You got to do your actions. How to do the actions? Because Arjuna was afraid. He thought that he is going to commit sins if he wages the war against his teachers, his grandfather, his cousins. So Lord Krishna is teaching him how to do your actions and not incur any sins. Then Lord Krishna also tells him that if you run away from here, your name will be tarnished forever. You have been glorified. You are the greatest warrior. And you won't like to hear that. So these are the reasons he gives Arjuna in this. Verse 47 to 60 is a sketch of Karam Yog, yoga of action. And from verses 61 to 70, he touches upon the Bhakti Yoga, the path of love. And in the last two verses, 71 and 72, talks about the Sanyas Yoga, the path of renunciation. It's not a renunciation and running away. In Gita, we understand the true meaning of renunciation, which is called Sanyas. So you can look at this second chapter, the Shankhya Yoga chapter, as an epitome of entire Gita. Okay? But again, it's a long chapter. That's why people get very confused. What's in there? So what if we look at those sections, it gets a little easier to digest or to understand. So all the paths of perfection are sketched in this chapter. Gyan Yog, Bhakti Yoga, and Karam Yoga. Gyan means knowledge, Bhakti means devotion, and Karam means actions. So these are all explained over here in this chapter. Let me break it down in a different way for you, because this is just by verse, but if you don't want to look at the verses, let's look at this knowledge about the soul he's talking about. It's called the Adhyatma Gyan. So in those first few verses, he says, body dies, not the soul. Atma, or the soul, gets another body. Just like we change clothes, Atma changes the body. Based upon what? Based upon our karmas. Right now, we have a body of a human being. But based upon the karmas, we can have a body, divine body, ethereal body also, like devatas, with the help of the good karmas. Or we can go down also. We can have a body of a animal, a bug, or a bird, or a plant also. They all have souls. So based on the karmas, we can go up or down. No weapon can kill the soul. Fire can't burn it. Water can't wet it. Air can't dry it. In all those verses, he speaks about that. Time does not have any effect on the soul. Atma was never born, so which was never born, that never dies. The terms are used over here, the Sanskrit words, Ajar and Amar and Shashwat. Then he says it cannot be explained, because something we need to explain, we need to have a form, or a color, or a shape. Atma doesn't have any of that. So it's unexplainable. It's even incomprehensible. To have some kind of something to be there to comprehend. But at the same time, it's all pervading. There's no place where Atma is not. Even in our own body, there's no place where the effect of the Atma is not, whether it's the head or the toes. Just like when the sun is shining, that sunlight is everywhere. But sure, at certain places, that sunlight reflects better than the others. The clear water, we can see the reflection of the sun. We almost see that sun inside the water. But if the water is dirty and muddy, we can't. So the same thing in the Atma also, in the body. Atma is in everybody. Nobody can kill it. So he says, you cannot grieve about it, because Arjuna was grieving. Arjuna said, I'm going to kill them. He says, you cannot kill them. So this is the highest level of philosophy he is giving it to Arjuna. He says, if you are grieving for the body, you think you are killing the body. He says, it's very natural for the body to die. So he's just coming one notch down then. The highest is the Adhyatmic Gyan. Then little lower than, he says, hey, this is very natural. Body does take birth and it does die. And we all know that. Then after that, Lord Krishna told Arjuna about the duty. We all have duties. He said, you are a prince, you are a Kshatriya. You are a warrior. To wage the war, to protect the people of your country is your duty. That is your dharam. Dharam is the word actually. When we translate into duty, it doesn't give the same kind of a meaning. Dharam is not bigger. He says, if you do not do your dharam, you will be ridiculed. You will be considered a coward. And when you don't do your duty, it's not only what others say, but you will degrade yourself. So first, the eternal nature of the soul has been established. Then our duties in the form which we are in right now. See, just like a duty of a teacher, duty of a student, duty of a mother, duty of a father, duty of a brother, duty of a citizen. There are so many different duties we need to do. That's our dharma. We saw in the last chapter, Arjuna talked about the sin, the papa, in his arguments. You remember those 11 arguments he made? Lord Krishna said, you can get rid of the sins with the help of yoga. He says with the buddhi yoga. Buddhi yoga. When you do your dharam with the non-attachment, that is called anasakt chitta, that becomes a buddhi yoga. So that means just putting your intellect or all your power into what you are doing, not into the fruits. That's why he said that you got to have a very still mind, sthita pragya. no desire of your own. And this is a Karam Yogi. Let me give you a simple definition of a Karam Yogi. A Karam Yogi is a person who erases the boundary between the worldly and the spiritual life and learns to use worldly activities for the sake of spiritual growth. That's a Karam Yogi. That means do your duty, do your dharma, follow dharma, and live in a righteous way. That is a Karam Yogi. So that means whatever you need to do it skillfully. Do it lovingly. And do it selflessly. Slowly get rid of the selfishness out of it. Because when we are worried about the fruits, that is a selfishness. If you want to just summarize the whole Gita, if somebody says, what is the whole summary of this Gita? Not just this chapter, but the whole Gita. If you go into the 47th verse of the second chapter, that summarizes. Even though I said I will not speak in Sanskrit in this class, but you cannot teach Gita without speaking Sanskrit. But I will definitely translate it to you. This 47th verse says, Karmanya eva adhikara aste, ma phaleshu kadachana. Ma karam phal heturabhu, ma te sangostva akarmani. How do you translate this into English? If you have a book, you can look at it. Lord Krishna says you have control over doing your respective duty only. So remember that only word is very important here. But no control or claim over the results. See how different it is. Right now, what we think that, hey, we have a right to have the fruits. But over here, Lord Krishna says, your right is just to do the duty. So you have control over doing your respective duty only, but no control or claim over the results. To enjoy the fruits of your work should not be your motive. You should never be inactive. So that means, see, there are 4 things in there. Do your duty. Do not worry about the fruits. Your motive should not be the fruit, but doing the duty. See, that's where the motivation will come, because often people say, how will I get motivated? Motivation comes that, hey, I got to do my duty properly. I got to follow my dharma. That's where the motivation is. At the same time, do not be inactive. So remember these 4 things from this chapter. Okay, doing the duty. Then you will rise above the pap and the punya. Bad and the good. The righteous and the unrighteous. So Arjuna listens to all this because these are the yogi's qualities. Because he talks about sthita prajna, he talks about a Karam Yogi. Then Arjuna asks, how do I recognize this kind of a person? How do we become this kind of a yogi? So Lord Krishna says, again, no selfishness in this person. This person gets more situated in the Atma. Because when you are doing what you need to do selflessly, of course you're going to get situated in the Atma more. There won't be any craving for the fruits. Me supreme. No cravings. Fruits will come, but you don't keep on thinking about the fruits. No cravings. And then when something does not go according to what it's supposed to go, you don't get disturbed either. People who know the Sanskrit or little Hindi, Sukh ki prapti mein nispriha and Dukh ki prapti mein udvigna na hona. So you don't get disturbed. So when something good happens, you don't jump up and down. When something does not go good, you do not go into the depression either. This is a yogi. That's how you recognize a yogi. No attachment to this world. No running away from this world either. Learning how to stay in the place where you're supposed to be and doing what you're supposed to do in a very even way. And no anger. Good and bad, same. So like whether it's raining or whether it's the sunshine, no disturbance inside. Another thing he said, this Karam Yogi has a special knack of withdrawing his senses from the objects. Because these objects are the one who can really create some problem for us. What happens when the objects are in front of us? We just keep on thinking about those objects. Then what do we want? We want to have those objects. So that's why learning to control the senses is his part. It's very important. Because otherwise you are feeding your senses endlessly. We want to be surrounded by beautiful things. We want to just keep on hearing harmonious sounds. We want to taste delicious food or agreeable scents or even luxurious textures. These are all senses, sense objects. They attract the senses. So when you keep on thinking about these objects, you get attached to them. Your desires increase. If you can have them, your ego rises up that I have them, others don't. And if you don't have them, you get upset. Why others have it and we don't? When you're upset, you get angry. When you're angry, you get confused. And when you get confused, that means you cannot think straight. You lose the ability to make the proper judgments. And you might end up doing something very silly, very hurtful, or even something very unethical. And he says there's a destruction of the intelligence. Arjuna nodded. Because this was very personal. He experienced all that in his life. And he liked the logical way Lord Krishna explained it to him. Just like a mighty ocean is completely undisturbed, when all the waters go into the ocean. So Lord Krishna says, you should be, or a yogi is, your yogi's mind is like a mighty ocean. Objects are around, people are around, situations are around, but no disturbance inside them. That is a proper control. That's how a yogi lives on this earth. We all have the senses, we all have the objects, but the yogi's life and the ordinary life, ordinary person's life is different. There's another verse you should look at, verse number 69. That's where he explains that yogi's life and ordinary person's life is different. And this yogi's heart is different than ordinary person too. Heart means his emotions. Emotions are used by the yogi to help others, have a compassion for others. Wherever you can help others, live for others, that's how a yogi's life is. So selfishness is gone. So this is all like a buddhi, using the intellect, learning to withdraw the senses inward rather than just letting them go outside. So all this is explained in this chapter. So a lot of knowledge, but remember, just when you are going through it, to break down according to these verses. And remember, this is like just a start, summary of the rest of the chapter. You'll see that he will open it up more. Karam Yog also for us, Bhakti Yog also, and the Gyan Yog also. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now and see if you have any question, and I can just answer those questions. So if you have studied this second chapter in detail, still, I mean, if you have a question, you can ask. But if you have never studied and you have some question, you can ask about that too. So because in this class, we are going a little differently. It's almost like trying to understand what are we supposed to do when we are studying Bhagavad Gita. Okay, I think Nishta has a question. Yes, Nishta. Yeah, unmute yourself, please.
Sorry, I didn't unmute myself. So it almost looks like he's shaming Arjuna. And in some cases, I even got the feeling that it's such a pervasive thing within our culture and even in the Muslim culture, that log kya kahenge type syndrome. You know, where he's almost saying, agar ye nahi karoge, then what will people say about you, kind of a thing. And I think it's become so pervasive in our culture that we sort of run to that. And my second question is, there's almost in Karam Yog, you talk about not looking at the fruit and so on. There's almost like a feeling of guilt if you're doing well and you're enjoying the finer things in life, whereas when you look at the pictures of Arjuna, Krishna, they're all living the lap of luxury, correct? So I mean, they're all wearing all the gold, they're living in palaces and so on. So how do you sort of justify that?
Yeah, okay. So to answer your first question, he's not shaming Arjun. He's shaking Arjun. Because you have to shake up a person who has gone so down to really make him realize. So you remember the first thing he talked about, the highest knowledge. Then he talked about the Karam Yog. Then he knew Arjun so well. He knew Arjun very well. Arjun liked to be liked like that. He knew that Arjun is not ready to just go into the jungles. So he's not shaming Arjun, he's waking now by giving these arguments. And the second one thing you said, enjoying the fruits of your action, nobody says that we should not. But while we are doing something at that time, if we keep on thinking about the fruits, we are not putting our 100% energy into the action. Otherwise, enjoying, all these senses have been given to us to enjoy. It's nothing wrong to eat good food and enjoy it. So, but keep thinking about it all the time, then you are not even putting your energy into the right place. That's all. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong in enjoying, nothing wrong in having the opulence over here, or the mansions, or the beautiful clothes. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so it's just like when you are doing something, do this properly. That's a Karam Yog.
Okay, thank you.
So all this materialism, it has a place. It should stay outside, not inside us. If we keep on thinking about it, it has taken a housing in our mind. So it should not take a housing there. All of this gold and the silver and the mansions, they should stay outside. They have a purpose. Okay.
And one last question
Sure.
is, you know, in the first chapter, I missed the question answer for the first chapter. In the first chapter, they give names to like the conch and sabka. They have why is that? What is the meaning behind giving a name to an inanimate kind of an object?
That was the tradition back then. Even now, people give the names to certain things. Okay, so it was a tradition. That's all. There's no deeper significance to that, because all their life they had those musical instruments also and the weapons also. So that's why they just gave the names to them. Okay, that's all.
Okay, thank you.
There's no other significance to that. Yes. So anybody else?
Yeah, Harshji.
Yes.
For the sake of some of us, you just said that the senses are given to enjoy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we say, okay, the question should be how, the same time we know that the senses are supposed to be withdrawn and inwards.
Yeah.
So how do you enjoy the fruits with the senses inwards? Just for the sake of us.
Okay. See, right now, you are not eating food.
Yeah.
So senses should not think about the food. When the food, beautiful plate of food in front of you, do enjoy it, eat it. Then be done with it. Do not have a lingering effect of that afterwards. When you go out for a walk, enjoy that scenery. Because that's what you're doing at that time. Walking, enjoying, feeling good. Then be done with it.
So with gratitude.
Drink water, get satiated with it, feel good about it. That's it then. The problem is when there's a lingering effect of it.
Right.
That is the problem. When we are, see what we do these days, when we are eating, we are not eating. We are not enjoying the food. We are either planning or watching TV or talking. When you eat, only eat. When you sleep, only sleep. When you meditate, only meditate. When you pray, only pray. If we do that, but what we do, we are driving and we are eating. When we are meditating, we start to plan.
Yeah.
When we are sleeping, we get disturbed. That's why people can't sleep right away.
So we are not focused.
We are not doing the thing which we are supposed to do.
Yeah.
I saw my Guruji eating.
Only eating.
Only eating.
Right.
And then what happens is when we do that way, full absorption into what we are doing, we do it properly. Otherwise, we can eat so much and we are still not satisfied. Right? Sometimes we don't even know how much we have eaten, especially when we are in a party, talking to people. So enjoyment, definitely God wants us to enjoy.
Yeah.
But properly.
So put gratitude, love, and awareness into everything we are doing.
Exactly. That's why before we eat, what do? Thank God.
Yeah.
Do it properly. That's what Gita teaches us. Okay. I mean, I don't know whether you have read other scriptures or not. They tell us exactly how should we eat, what should we do before eating. The details are given in there. Share also with others before you eat. Take out for the cow also, for the dog also, for the bird also. So we need to, maybe we cannot do exactly the same way the scriptures were written long ago, but we can modify those even now.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Also, Harshji, when we learn to focus on the things we are doing, it also helps in meditation because
definitely, because meditation is not only sitting down meditation few minutes a day.
right.
Okay, we got to learn to control, because what is meditation? Meditation is learning to control your mind.
Yeah.
That's all meditation is. And if we can learn to control our mind more and more, but also when you're cooking also, washing your hands, you can meditate at that time. You can do the dishes and it could be meditative effect on you. When you're taking a shower, what happens at that time? Watch your mind. Where does it go? If you can just concentrate on that particular action, that's a meditation. Bringing the mind into the focus, telling the mind what to do, and it listens to you, that is a meditative mind. Otherwise, you could be sitting in a beautiful meditative posture, in the most beautiful altar, but your mind is wandering all over the universe. That's not a meditation. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Padma. I think Sujata has a question.
Harshi, would it be right to say that the yogi whose senses are, who's not using his senses for survival, puts his senses to sleep? Like, I mean, when he's doing other things? Like when we are meditating, we put our other senses to sleep.
Okay.
And so we can focus on the object of our meditation.
Yeah, we are giving it a rest.
Rest. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you're
we put
dormant.
We put all the senses, just like a body. When we are meditation, in meditative pose, what are we doing? We are controlling our body and then controlling our senses. Then we are telling our mind what to do. Who's telling the mind what to do? The intellect is. Okay. The buddhi is telling the mind what to do. So you remember, buddhi is higher than the man. Higher means more pervasive. So intellect is telling the mind what to do. And what should mind do during meditation? Get absorbed into the absolute. Whether you want to call it a Allah, or whether you want to call it a Jesus or Ram or Krishna or Om, does not matter. Just get situated in that. That's all.
But at the same time, Harshi, the yogi is alert in all ways at all times, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Alert. Yes. Yeah. Yogi is. Yeah. Because alertness, where is the alertness comes from?
From the strength of God, of course.
That is the Atma.
Yeah.
That's the awareness.
Yeah.
That is always awake in yogi.
Yeah.
So by absorbing the mind into the Atma does not mean that we are dulling ourselves.
Yeah.
We are always aware actually, but we just, our mind creates a veil between our full awareness and what is happening.
Yeah. He can easily divide his jobs perfectly. Yeah.
So would you say that he's not a reactive person? I mean, his senses are not reacting to every single stimulus that's coming in.
Right.
He's not, I would add the word impulsiveness over there. He is not impulsively reacting. Otherwise, action and reactions go all the time.
Yeah.
but he doesn't do it impulsively, rashly.
If you pinch a yogi who's meditating, he will know, but he might not react. He might choose not to react. Or
He will act though.
Yes.
I have had the experience because I had the opportunity to live with a yogi of this highest caliber. I remember the day I was a pre-med student. I had to have some signatures done of my father. My mother could not sign, but my father, his signature, I needed it. Time to go to college. I should have had it done that last night, but I didn't. I still remember that day, as clear and vivid as it might have happened yesterday. He was sitting in his meditation. What to do? That was the last day to get it done. Very gently, I disturbed him. He got up, signed, went back again. He did not ridicule me. He did not get disturbed. He did not end up his meditation right there. He just did his fatherly duty. He taught me a great lesson that do not get disturbed. If something from outside comes to you also. So that means the inside disturbances we should have in control, but outside disturbances we should have those also, handle them properly. Plus another thing I learned that, yeah, I should do my things on time too, as a young girl.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
This happened to me, and it's just like it put such a strong impact on my personality.
Of course.
I was 17 years old at that time. So we should remember this, first of all. Lord Krishna is not ridiculing him. He's not shaming him. But he's definitely shaking him. And the shake-up is needed when a person is down.
Yes.
And he's using very beautiful words for Arjuna throughout Bhagavad Gita, even in this chapter. He says, you are the best of the warrior. You are the best of the dynasty. You have been glorified all your life. And you like it. If Karan and the Duryodhan and the Dushashan and these people who are standing there see you running away. So he's making him realize, he's showing the truth to him. And this is the job of a guru or a guide, to show you the truth. Logically, he's telling it. That's why I said all these verses, they just go one by one, very logically. And that's why Arjuna gets he did not get disheartened. He started asking very deep questions in this chapter. Right here, when he said that, how do we recognize a yogi? How to become a yogi? What do we need to do? How to experience this form as a yogi? So he did not get disheartened. In fact, his eyes are opening up right now. And we'll see that in each chapter, he does ask questions. That's why this is called the Upanishad. Upanishad is when there's a dialogue between two people, a guru and the student. So there's a dialogue going on. He's not shaming him at all. Okay. So good questions. I'm glad. See, this conversation helps a lot of people. So we can, if 11:15, we can end the class here, and we'll have a couple of bhajans, and then some birthday blessings also. Okay.